In a town where the rain fell in soft chimes and the cobblestones were worn smooth by generations of footsteps, there was a little shop on Wistful Lane that sold a very peculiar thing: second chances. The shop belonged to an elderly clockmaker named Mr. Alistair Pennyworth. His workshop was a symphony of quiet sounds: the gentle tick-tock of 100 clocks, the soft hiss of his steam-powered tools, and the occasional chime of a memory being repaired. For Mr. Pennyworth didn't just fix clocks, he fixed moments. People came to him with broken pocket watches and stopped grandfather clocks, but what they were really asking him to mend was a missed opportunity, a goodbye said too hastily, a moment of courage that had slipped away. A young woman named Clara was his most recent visitor. She placed a beautiful silver filigree pocket watch on his counter. It was frozen at 2:07. "This was my grandmother's," Clara whispered, her eyes glistening. "It stopped the moment she left. I never got to tell her I loved her one last time." Mr. Pennyworth picked up the watch, his kind, wrinkled face thoughtful. He held it to his ear, listening not with it, but to it. "Ah," he murmured, "the mainspring of final words has snapped, a common yet delicate ailment." He led Clara to his workbench, a landscape of tiny gears, coiled springs, and bottles of liquid starlight. He worked with tweezers finer than eyelashes and a magnifying glass that could see into the heart of a raindrop. He didn't just repair the spring, he polished the gears of regret until they shone. He oiled the hands of time lost so they could move freely again. Finally, from a tiny velvet-lined drawer, he produced a new component, a delicate, golden gear called a heart-spoken. "This," he explained, "will allow the watch to hold the words you never said." With a final gentle click, the repair was complete. He handed the watch to Clara. "Wind it," he said softly. "Watch. I know, my dear. I've always known." A single happy tear traced a path down Clara's cheek. The weight she had carried for months simply vanished. Mr. Pennyworth smiled, polishing his spectacles. He didn't sell the clocks in his shop. He merely rented them, for a week, a month, a year, however long a person needed to make peace with a moment. In the corner, a cuckoo clock chimed, and instead of a bird, a tiny ghostly couple waltzed out for a single joyful spin, a second chance at a first dance. For Mr. Pennyworth knew the secret: time itself couldn't be rewound, but the heart could. And sometimes, all a broken heart needed was to hear the tick-tock of forgiveness, or the chime of a love that was never truly lost, to finally find the courage to move forward again. The end. Now close your eyes, listen to the quiet rhythm of your own heart. It's the most beautiful clock of all, always ticking toward new beginnings. Good night. In a quiet corner of a city that was always in a hurry, there was a small, dusty library that most people walked right past. It had no grand signs, and its windows were often cloudy. This was the library of unread stories, and its keeper was an old woman named Alara with eyes the color of a calm sea. The library was not filled with books that were forgotten. It was filled with books that were waiting. These were the stories that had never been told, the ones that had been dreamed up but never written down, the tales that had gotten lost on their way to an author's pen. Alara's job was to care for them until they found their reader. One rainy afternoon, a man named Leo stumbled into the library to escape the downpour. He was a writer, or at least he used to be. He hadn't written a word in years, convinced that every story worth telling had already been told. Just browsing, he mumbled, shaking water from his coat. Alara simply nodded and went back to dusting a shelf of books that glowed with a soft, inner light. Leo wandered through the narrow aisles. The air hummed with a quiet energy. He didn't see any famous titles or authors' names on the spines. Instead, the books were labeled with feelings and ideas. One was called The Sigh of a Lonely Lighthouse. Another was How the Moon Learned to Whisper. He pulled one out, and it felt warm in his hands. The pages were blank. "These books are empty," he said, confused. Alara appeared beside him as if she'd been there all along. "They are not empty," she corrected gently. "They are patient. They are waiting for someone to give them words." She explained that every time someone had a brilliant idea for a story but dismissed it, or a child imagined a grand adventure but never shared it, a new book would appear on her shelves. It held the essence of the story, but not the words. It was a soul without a voice. "These stories want to be read," Alara said. "But first they must be written. And they choose their writers." She led him to a small wooden carrel at the back of the library. On the desk sat a single book, its cover a deep, inviting blue. The title, etched in silver, was simply, "The Bridge of Lost Melodies." "It has been waiting for you," Alara said. Leo sat down. He opened the book. The pages were blank. But as he placed his fingers on the first page, a feeling washed over him, a sense of a forgotten tune, a lonely musician, and a bridge that connected two silent towns. The story wasn't in words yet, it was a feeling, a color, a melody in his heart. He picked up the pen that lay beside the book, and he began to write. The words didn't feel like they were coming from him, but through him, he was the channel for a story that desperately wanted to exist. He wrote for hours, until the rain stopped, and the streetlights outside cast a golden glow. When he finally put the pen down, the book was full. The words shimmered for a moment, then settled into the page, as if they had always been there. Ilara came to his side. "You have done a great thing today," she said. "You have not just written a story, you have given a home to something that was lost." Leo left the library a different man. The story he wrote that day became his first published book in a decade. But more importantly, he never again believed that all the stories were gone. He knew they were all around us, in the quiet moments and the daydreams, waiting in a small dusty library for someone to believe in them, enough to lend them words. And if you ever have a wonderful idea for a story, but you keep it to yourself, you might just feel a gentle tug on your imagination. That's your story, leaving to find a spot on Alara's shelf, waiting patiently for its turn to be told. The end. Now close your eyes. Perhaps a story is waiting for you too, in your dreams tonight. All it needs is for you to listen. Good night.